Hey, good morning and welcome back. Today I'm going to go over the first part of the video that a lot of people didn't see yesterday. So it was loaded on my Facebook page, but it was a YouTube link, and I got some reports that it wouldn't allow people to go in there and look. So I'm going to delete that one, and I'm going to go over what I talked about in that today. Um, my goal with all of these videos, and there'll be a lot more, is to expose people to what veterans go through with the VA. If you like that nice little eyeball over my shoulder, that's actually a blanket of my son Evan. But that's just his little eyeball. It's covering up a bunch of printers that I have back there. But my purpose in these videos is to show people, ordinary, everyday people that don't have to deal with the VA, and even those that do, uh, what it's like. For those of you who don't have to deal with the VA, it's going to be completely mind blowing to you that we have to go through some of the stuff we have to go through. For those of you who are involved with the VA, or VA is your healthcare provider, a lot of these stories are going to be relevant to you. They're going to be stories you yourself have. And stories that you like to be shared. And if there's stories that you would like to share, just comment and either comment, you can private message me, or you can call, email. I gave those out yesterday on the second half of the broadcast that I did. But this is about VA problems, the problems that we as vets go through, the hurdles that we have to jump, the red tape that has clogged up the system, how different hospitals have different rules. Different hospitals go by the rules set by the VA. Other hospitals push off or decide that, yeah, that's a suggestion from national. It's not something that we have to do. Or it is maybe something we have to do, but we can prolong it till it's kind of forgot about, and then we'll go back to the way we were doing it. That's what happens. And right now, for me, I'm stuck in the red tape and the bureaucracy and the doctors who feel like they are the insurance adjuster and are trying to find ways to save money. And whenever they do that, they deny help that is actually needed. So, with that being said, I'm going to go over an introduction to who I am, to some of my problems, and then we'll move on from there. People always ask, how you doing? How are things? You doing okay? And the pat answer is yes, I'm doing okay. I'm doing good. Because people don't really want to know. Whenever I say people don't want to know, they probably do, but not in the way that is going to take any time or that they have to have any sympathy or empathy for. They just want to know that you're doing good. Hey, you're still walking, you're still breathing, everything's fine. So yeah, we're good. Appreciate it. How are you doing? People like me in my situation with the problems that I have don't want to give out their problem list to everybody. I had one of my friends email me one time, "Hey, buddy, how you doing?" I sent him a list of the 4 pages of problems that I have. Everything from high blood pressure to paralysis to everything. 4 pages of problems. I listed them all in the text. And whenever I got finished with the text, I said, "And I have a hangnail." Thought it was funny to end it that way. Never got a reply from the guy. Never. Love him. He's one of my best friends. But I'm sure he sat back going, "Holy crap. I don't know how to respond to that." And most people wouldn't. Whenever you start listing off all the stuff that I have, most people would give up about halfway through and say, "You know what? This guy's dead. He's dying. If he's not dead right now, he will be within a day or two." So yeah, people don't really want to know. But I'm going to give an introduction to me, and to myself and my service history. I'm a 53-year-old male. I served in the Marine Corps for 6 years, working on A6E tram aircraft, working on electronic countermeasures, electronic warfare equipment. I left the Marine Corps, went into the Army Reserve. Army Reserve, I stayed in from 94 till 2005. So I got out then for a bunch of different reasons, a lot of different reasons, but I got out then. In the Army Reserve, I served as a combat medic, and that was from 94 to 2005. But I started having issues with my health right after Desert Storm. I served with Desert Storm while I was in the Marine Corps. I started having problems right after then in 91. Now, whenever you're in the Marine Corps, you don't go to sick call. You just don't go. Sick call it's not off limits, but it's something that can put a stranglehold on your career if they see you going to sick call more than just a couple of times a year. So we didn't go. We went to outside places. We went to outside hospitals. We did emergency rooms outside. We went and saw doctors outside of the Marine Corps and the Army Reserve, because going to sick call it's a black mark on you. It's almost like a hit list, if you will, because they only want healthy, perfectly sound, healthy guys that don't complain about anything. So that's what you become. You become a perfectly healthy guy who doesn't complain about anything, but still has all the issues. Since 1991, I've had a lot amount of symptoms and illnesses, but the bigger one was I would become paralyzed on my left side. I would get the tingling, the numbness, I would get the facial drooping, all of that. Hey guys, excuse me, it's early, but I yawn whenever I talk a little bit because maybe don't breathe right. That's why I don't sing, other than the fact that my voice is absolutely horrible and they would kick me out of church. So I got paralysis on my left side. I would go to the hospital, went to the hospital so many times for paralysis on my left side. The whole thing, the arm, the leg, the facial drooping, everything that goes along with paralysis. I'd be in the hospital for a little while, it would go away. The doctors would come in and say, dude, we ran all the tests, there's nothing wrong with you. We don't know what happened. Something may have blocked. Something may have blocked in there in your brain, and then it just dissipated and it goes away. Or maybe you had a transient ischemic attack, a fake stroke. But your arteries look good. There's no plaque in your system. Maybe it's just a little blood clot or something that caught up in there and it dissipated with a little pressure. So that was for years, all the way up through 2019. My father had a ton of strokes in his mid-40s. So that's always on my mind. So whenever I'm starting to have these strokes in my mid-20s, I'm like, wow, or stroke-like symptoms. I'm like, wow, God, please, 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 don't let me end up like that. I don't want to be down like that and dependent upon everybody, which unfortunately is where I'm at now. So after I got out of the Marine Corps, on exit from the Marine Corps, they give you all these talks and these exit interviews, and you go through all the different departments, and they tell you the things that you need to know. One of the things they should tell you that they don't is your medical options after you get out of the Marine Corps. For Desert Storm vets, I think I mentioned this in yesterday's video. Desert Storm vets are the only group of veterans that have lifetime health benefits guaranteed from day one. From the time you get out of the service till the time you die, you have VA health benefits. Not World War I soldiers, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, even Afghanistan, Iraq, Afghanistan soldiers only get 5 years of health benefits unless they become totally disabled or disabled more than 50%. So, which is a hard thing to do in itself. Let me explain some of the wars to you. Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Afghanistan and Iraq, Vietnam, Korea. All of these wars were set up to initially help. Great intentions, horrible outcomes. And the reason for that is because the United States is set up not to win wars. It just is. We're a very civilized society, so we fight by very civilized rules. We have very strict rules of combat, extremely strict rules of combat. Now, the people that we're fighting, they don't have those rules. They don't go by those rules. They know what the rules are, and they skirt around them so that they don't get fired upon, they don't get shot. They huddle in places and they fire out of places that have a lot of human shields around them so that they don't get fired back upon. Because the last thing any government wants is there would be a bomb, hit a hospital, kill however many people because there was one person up on top shooting mortars. That's how they do it. So in Desert Storm, Desert Shield, it was only a month, 6-week war because we started off, we did great carpet bombing. We took out a lot of Iraqi soldiers. We negotiated a surrender for us because we wanted it to look good for us. We didn't achieve the mission that we went over there for. We didn't punish the ones who did all the atrocities in Desert Storm. The Iraqis that came over and brutalized the women, completely brutalized the women. And nobody wants to know about that either, about how the atrocities were, what they were. But I'll give you a few examples. Whenever the Iraqis went into Kuwait, of course, they'd go house to house. They would pull the men out and the women, and they would shoot the men in front of the women. Then they would take the women back in the house and they would rape them and molest them. Whenever they were done, they scarred the women so that everybody would know that they're not pure anymore. They would slice their face. They would cut their nipples off. They would do a lot of things to them to deface their body so that nobody would want them anymore. Even their own culture wouldn't want them anymore. They would be outcast. So those are just some of the things they would do. Saddam Hussein was known for gassing his own people before and after Desert Storm. He would bomb them with sarin gas or with mustard gas and kill off towns, whole communities, whole villages, just because they didn't like what he was doing. He was their dictator. Whatever he said went. So we didn't address those issues whenever we went over there. We were supposed to address those issues, but it came a point with all the political pressure in Washington that we had to say, let's get out before we catch more hell at home. So we did. We got all the way up to the gates of Baghdad. We could have walked in there. We had the manpower, the willingness, the armory to get in there and just completely take over and do what we needed to do. Turn it back over to people that were responsible. Not sit there and nation build. That's not our job. We're to go in there, help, get rid of the problems, insert new people into there, and let them know if you do these same things, guess what's going to happen to you? Just so they know. You put fear in them to let them know that, hey, we're watching you. And we're watching what you do to these fine people over here, because there are fine people in every country. The places that I went, I ran into such good people. Muslim countries, European countries, they all have very fine people, but every one of them has a group of renegades and outlaws. We have them here in the United States, anywhere from Proud Boys to Antifa to BLM. BLM started off as a great organization, had a great cause. They dwarfed into something that was absolutely pitiful, and not all of them did, just part of them. It's kind of like saying all Christians are bad. No, all Christians aren't bad. But then you have the people like Westboro Baptist Church that go out and they cause trouble, they cause scenes, they want to aggravate and agitate. We have those people here. In Antifa, like I said, Proud Boys, and sections of BLM. I support Black Lives Matter. I really do. In my heart of hearts, I do. What I don't support is violence by any group. I agree with peaceful protest. I don't agree with violence. Violence should be met with violence. That's how I look at it. But anyway, off of that. So we gave up. We gave up in Desert Storm, Desert Shield because it was the politically right thing to do. Not that we couldn't finish our job, but we had horrible rules of warfare. We were fighting people that don't use those same rules. So it was what we call guerrilla warfare, house-to-house warfare. And they didn't abide by the rules. I mean, in war, there really should not be any rules. You go in there, and your job is to do this. You go do it. But you can't do that with the United States because it's not politically correct. Afghanistan and Iraq, wow, what a debacle. And it was not just a debacle for Biden, it was a debacle for every president since it started. It was just a complete and total disaster. And all of it was based on these crazy rules of war and a moving objective. The moving objective started off as going there and the people that were responsible for 911, get them, kill them, be done. Then it was go in there and capture. Let's get information. We're gonna use enhanced techniques, interrogation techniques to get that information. Okay, so bad publicity, poor things, poor people that tried to blow up the United States were not treated well. I didn't care. Still don't care. Treat them how they treat us. Meet violence with violence. I have no problem with that. As much as I am a Christian, and somebody hurts my brothers in arms, my sisters in arms, hurt them bad, make them pay. Use the people that we capture to find out more information, hurt them, make them pay. No problems whatsoever. Well, in Iraq and Afghanistan, 400,000 troops against 50 to 75,000 Taliban. The armor was there, the ordnance was there, the willingness, the people, everything was there. Unfortunately, these stupid ass rules of combat were there too. How can you take 400,000 of the best trained military force in the world, the best technology, the best lethal weapons, the best everything, and not wipe out 50 to 75,000 Taliban soldiers? There's only one reason for that: bureaucratic red tape. We can't do this because it's not nice. We can't shoot these people because it's not nice. It's not politically correct. We have to have this happen and this happen and this happen before we can shoot. We can't just see a rifle. We just can't, watch somebody planting an IED because we don't know they could be planting flowers on the side of a road. We don't know. So we have to go investigate. People get blown up. There are people sitting off in the distance that are waiting for you to get that point, hit that IED, and open fire, killing a lot of people. But we couldn't do anything until that IED went off and those people started shooting. That's how bad our rules of engagement are. So whenever we gave up in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I do say we gave up because we left in the middle of the night, we left without telling our allies, without telling anybody that we were leaving. One night, everybody left. They left their clothing, their guns, their ammunition, helicopters, planes, Humvees, tracked vehicles, everything. And worst of all, they left people. I say worst of all, they left people. They left the bomb-sniffing dogs that we had in cages on the ground. Cages. These dogs saved so many lives. Left, forgotten. They left the interpreters, the contractors. We had hired contractors to come in and do certain things. They didn't tell them we were leaving. They just left. They didn't tell the Iraqi interpreters that we were leaving. They just left. Then, for some reason, they closed down the biggest airbase that could have got the most people out and decided to go to the heart of the country with a smaller airbase that they couldn't control, had no control over, and said, okay, here's what you got to do. You got to go through the Taliban. If you can go through the Taliban checkpoints, get to us, and you're on our list, then we'll try and get you out. Okay? See no problem in that, other than the fact that you had to go through Taliban checkpoints. You had to pay at every checkpoint. If you had certain visas, you weren't getting through. If you were an interpreter, you sure as hell wasn't getting through. Okay? People were hurt, people were shot, people were killed. American citizens left behind. Interpreters, service dogs, left behind. All because President Biden wanted to make a speech on the 20th anniversary of the invasion of Afghanistan and Iraq. He wanted to give a speech. All of this crap, all of this leaving, all of this desertion of people, of friends, of allies, of dogs, was so that Biden could give a speech saying he had ended a 20-year war. He surrendered a 20-year war. That's it. He went against all the advice of his military commanders and relied all on the advice of political appointees who wanted to make sure everything was politically correct. Worst disastrous pullout in American history. Worst. By far. Worse than Vietnam. They just quit. Desert Storm. This is where I served. Whenever we went over to Desert Storm, we had mop suits, and they gave us each one mop suit and a gas mask. Now, mop suits are the charcoal line suits that you wear to protect you from different gases. The gas mask has filters in there that help keep the bad gases away from you. So from head to toe, you're covered. Boots, hands, face, hair, everything is covered. Those suits are good single-use suits. Well, whenever we got over there, we started looking. These mop suits and the filters for these gas masks could have been expired for years, some for decades. That's what we were given. And then the scud and chemical alarms started going off almost daily. And whenever that happened, we'd have to put on this mop suit, full gear, head to, then several minutes later, they'd say all clear, we'd take them off. Mop suits are a one-time use. I never got another one while I was over there. I never got new filters for my gas mask while I was over there. So that one-time use thing went out the window. The things that we were supposed to have to protect us, we didn't. Then we had a Scud missile hit next to us. Nobody said what was in the Scud missile hit. It was hard enough to find it in the military records that it actually hit. But we did, and it didn't. Everything's good, no problem. It was far enough away from troops. It didn't do anything. It didn't have anything in the warhead. But with all the other lies that were told to America and to the servicemen, you know, how can we believe that? We can't. Because it was close enough to civilians and to military. And they sounded the Scud and the chemical alarms after that. And we were in them for quite a while in our bunkers. I was actually on guard duty. I saw the missile coming in, saw it land. So those things happen. And those are some of the things that just weren't reported because it wasn't important. Whenever we went over there, everybody said, Colin Powell, everybody showed pictures of weapons of mass destruction. And that was one of the reasons why we were finally sent over there, was to get rid of those weapons of mass destruction. We knew that they had them. They'd been using them against their own civilians, their own populations, their own families. They were killing, they were slaughtering villages with those chemical weapons. Now, as soon as we said we were going in, all of a sudden there were no chemical weapons. None. However, at that same time, Syria all of a sudden had a huge stockpile of chemical weapons. Not saying that Iraq said, hey, America's coming in for these, let's get rid of them, it'll all be over, they won't find anything, it'll all be good. Use your own judgment on that. Syria had little, then all of a sudden they had a ton. The alarms went off constantly. We didn't have now the VA has said this since. The military said we didn't have the proper testing equipment over there for air quality to see what was in the air after all these missiles hit, or whenever the alarms went off and said all clear. That happened daily, sometimes more than once a day. The other things that we had over there were burn pits. They would make burn pits out of to get rid of everything from human waste to unexploded ordnances, uranium covered ordnances, tires. You think of anything bad that could be put in there, they put in there. Massive fires. Fires that the smoke went up and out for miles and miles. Oil well fires that the smoke went up for hundreds of miles. Dense, heavy smoke, toxic as could be, just like the burn pits. And then we had all of the other stuff, all of the mini inoculations they gave us, the PB pills, anthrax shots. They gave them to us. We took them because we had to. The dirt that we breathed in over there was full of heavy metals, crazy full of heavy metals. They knew this, but they didn't give us masks to wear, even during the sandstorms. Nothing. Just broke your head down, and you tried not to breathe in as much as you could. Then we get to the nasty water buffaloes. Oh my God, those were so nasty. Water buffaloes, if you don't know, are these huge tanks that they fill with water and got little faucets on the side of them that everybody fills up their canteens with. Whenever we got over there, that's all we had to drink from was these water bottles, or these water buffaloes. So we'd all fill up our canteens, we'd drink. We had to drink a lot. Then they gave us water bottles, clear water bottles. Somebody somewhere had donated just a crap ton of filtered water. So we get those and we drink those. We're really happy. It tastes so good, so different. But then we used those at the water buffalo, and all of a sudden we literally saw mold floating around in there that we'd been drinking for months. Why? Why were we subject to that? Why weren't they clean, sanitized? They weren't. It was horrible. It was nasty. Nobody wanted to drink from the water buffaloes again, but we were forced to because we'd run out of uh, bottled water. Diarrhea sickness was pretty rampant. Everybody went to the Army hospital there. Army was the one that provided the hospitals. Unfortunately, all of the medical records from the Army hospital were lost. Imagine that. Um, and explained by the VA is like, okay, so those records were lost. So it's kind of like moving from this house to this house, and in the move, stuff gets lost. Medical records got lost, no big deal. And in the same time, the same sentence, they said, okay, well, I know you're filing for this disability, but there's nothing in your records that shows this. And it happened to be this thing that was shown at the Army hospital. Gone. Just disappeared. Poof. So I started having, of course, like I said, the stroke-like symptoms, TIAs. In February 2019, on a trip to Louisiana with my daughter and my granddaughter, I started having the stroke-like symptoms. My mouth drooping on the left side, the numbness, tingling, the curling up of the fingers to total paralysis. So before I hit total paralysis, my dog had made it to my mother-in-law's house, and my daughter called my wife. And she said, Mom, something's not right with Dad. Here's what's going on, and he won't let me do anything. So right after she came back up front, my wife called and just completely chewed my butt and said, you're going to a hospital. So because I wanted it to happen, not because somebody told me to, because I don't listen to what people tell me to, but because I wanted it to happen, I went to the hospital. And they said, wow, we know this is going on, but we can't figure out why. So we're going to send you to a trauma center that has a good stroke center that can figure out what's happening with you. So I was airlifted to the stroke center, spent a few days there, and they came out and said, we have no idea. We don't know what's happening with you. Tests are good. Everything's good. So we're going to send you home. Follow up with the neurologist out there. So I came home a couple of days later. I was back in the emergency room at the VA. Same thing. And a neurologist, come up there after I started feeling better. Numbness went away. And he came in, and his professional advice was, and he was very cold and just very cold about it. He goes, Mr. Lawrence, if you would just control your anxiety, this wouldn't happen anymore. And he walked away. That was it. That was my neurology consult for having these issues and these problems. Just control your anxiety. So I have about 4 pages of problems with the VA where they list out step by step every illness, every symptom. 4 full pages of problems. Now the hospitals down in Louisiana sent all of my MRIs, all of my x-rays, all of everything, all the paperwork back to the VA. The VA didn't look at any of it. They just put it in their file and moved on. So now I'm on a 30 pill a day cocktail from the VA. 30. Listen to that. 30 pills a day, along with my vitamins and supplements. So my breakfast, I could fill up for breakfast and have dinner on pills and be full. I went to a VA doctor once. This is a side note. Went to a VA doctor once. Yeah. He saw my charts. He was looking at them. He saw that I had type 2 diabetes, and he said, you know what? We need to start you on insulin. Me and my wife both looked at each other like, what in the world is he talking about? He said, yeah, I need to start you on insulin for your diabetes. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to order the insulin for you. And we said, okay, so how do I take that? He goes, as needed. Now, my wife's a nurse, and I've been a paramedic before, so we both looked at each other like, the hell is he talking about? So we asked again, what kind of regimen, what kind of schedule should he take it? And, if his blood sugar's this, and then he takes it. If blood sugar's down here, no, eat a candy bar. He said, just take it as needed. Okay. So me and my wife both said, not going to happen. Excuse me. Not going to happen at all. So as the symptoms started getting worse in February of 2019, started dealing with a lot of other things such as memory issues. I'd go from losing a day to weeks and months, and finally I lost a year. It's very hard to deal with. A week, a day, a month. At that point, I'd got used to it. I'd seen it before. I knew what was going to happen. My wife, it was much easier for my wife to deal with, trying to bring me up to where we were. Then I lost a year. Whenever I lost that year, it was extremely tough. I was in a different house. I walk outside. First I wake up. I call it waking up. Whenever I wake up and I don't know where I'm at, don't know anything, what's going on. So I woke up, lost a year of memory. Came downstairs. My father-in-law and mother-in-law were there. I said, hey, when did y'all get in? Well, they've been in for a couple of days. So I got this really crazy look on their face, and I just blew it off. And I started walking outside, and I noticed the house was different on the inside. So I thought, okay, we're at somebody else's house. So I walked outside, and there was this porch. This porch had the nastiest green neon paint on the top of the railing. It was atrocious. I was like, okay, somebody had really bad taste. So I went around back, and I was looking for a pool because we had a pool in our other house. And I was like, okay, please let there be a pool here. Walk around back. There's no pool. The only thing there is back there is crepe myrtle after crepe myrtle after crepe myrtle. Everywhere, crepe myrtles. Pretty because they had all the different colored blooms. Horrible because they're coming up all over the yard. Crepe myrtles spread like nuts. So we get done with that. Then I lose 3.5 years of memory. That's tough. That's crazy. It's not explainable. Ask my neurologist, and he'll tell you, or my psychiatrist and neurologist, 3.5 years of memory doesn't happen. It's just that can't happen to anybody. The year can't happen. A day or two, maybe a week, that can happen. Losing a year of memory, not possible. 3.5 years of memory, dang sure not possible. It just can't happen. So I'm sitting back going, okay, maybe I'm crazy. My wife comes downstairs and she tries to console me because I'm losing it. So I'd lost whenever my granddaughter was born. I'd lost 3.5 years of my son growing up, 3.5 years of my other two granddaughters growing up. And they were very little, 1.5, 2 years old, 2.5 years old whenever I went down and I woke up. Now they're 5, 6, and 3. 4, 5, and 3. So I missed all that. The growth between those ages is nuts. So my wife at this point knows, after all these other times, knows to walk me from where I'm at forward, not come in and say, well, this is where we're at, because it's not where I'm at. And trying to shove in 3.5 years of life into my memory or my head, because memories don't come back. Trying to shove all that into my head in a short period of time is overwhelming. It's too much. Puts you in a really dark place. So now she knows to work me from where I'm at mentally to where reality is. Very hard. Very hard to do. Now, I mentioned the neurologist and the psychologist saying that it's not possible. So I have a PAC at the VA. It's a patient advocacy care team. It includes my general practitioner, my neurologist, my psychologist, and my psychiatrist, and all the other health and, yada, yada, yada. Um, they're supposed to talk together and find out what's wrong. They look at all my symptoms. They see what's wrong with me. I got 4 pages of problems. They're supposed to look at those 4 pages of problems and say, hey, here's what's going on. Nothing. They don't talk to each other at all, period. Sometimes they'll read each other's notes in the VA system, but most times not. I've applied for stuff and they've denied it because it wasn't listed as a problem. I had to go back and find it and say, Dr. Von Guru, can you please add this to my problems list? Since I'm taking drugs for it, it's probably a problem. Can you add it to my problems list? Sure. It's on my problems list. And I have to do this quite a few times to get all of my stuff listed on there. They didn't even have my hemiplegia on there. So the doctors, whenever I apply for wheelchairs or whatever, don't know I'm paralyzed. Why would they give me a wheelchair? So I finally get that added, and poof, I get a wheelchair. Lots of things. Now, the VA is really weird, is they only treat one problem at a time. They don't look at the overall picture. They treat one problem. So if I have diabetes, they treat the diabetes. They say, okay, he probably got the diabetes from here. They treat the cholesterol here, got it right here. Hemophilia, could have got it here. It's all guesswork on where he got it, all that, because being a doctor, you practice medicine, and practicing means you don't know. So you practice it until you get it right. And unfortunately, you keep practicing because nobody knows everything about the human body. So I have all these problems. Then in December of 2000, whenever I lost all my memory for the 3.5 years, I'd forgotten everything that I'd been through. So now I wake up, I feel like I've had a stroke. I asked my wife, have I had a stroke? No. You have what's called hemiplegic migraines. She has to explain that to me. But it causes a paralysis, migraines, all that. So I finally get over that. I'm like, okay, I don't want to know anything about it right now. So it wasn't until October I started really trying to, because problems were getting worse. So I start really digging into it, seeing what's wrong. And I go back and I look at an MRI from 2019, and in the MRI it says white hyperintensities and cerebral small vessel disease. My doctors haven't mentioned anything about that to me, so I'm wondering why. So I pull up cerebral small vessel disease, and it's got a huge list of symptoms, huge. Really weird thing is it matches every single symptom that I have, every one of them, to a T, all the way down the list. From A to Z, every symptom I have is listed as symptoms of cerebral small vessel disease. So I emailed my doctor. I said, can you please explain cerebral small vessel to me? I get back the Google answer.
I can't connect to the Wi-Fi network. You might want to check the connection settings in the Google Home app.
Okay, I guess my Google was talking to me. There's not a symptom under cerebral small vessel disease that I don't have. All of them. So I asked my doctor, I said, can you explain this to me? And can you explain why it was on my MRI and nobody's told me about it? So she sends me the Google answer, literally word for word from Google. And she never explained why nobody saw it. Well, the fact is nobody looked. Nobody looked at the paperwork that came from the hospital, from the stroke center down in Louisiana. I was pissed. I was really upset. So, of course, as I explained, Desert Storm veterans are the only one that have free lifetime health care. And the government knows something's going on, they just don't know what. So, hey, since we don't know what, everybody gets free health care from Desert Storm. So what they say is, okay, first, they don't even recognize Gulf War illness, Gulf War syndrome. They don't recognize it at all. they say, okay, you have a few problems. We'll treat those problems individually and move on. So they come out and say, okay, here's what we're going to do. If you can prove that you were in an area that had chemical, biological weapons, then we're going to give you 100% disability. You're done. Okay. If you can prove that, you were around something that a Scud missile hit next to you, and, you felt your life was in danger, we'll give you PTSD, and we're going to start at 25%, and we'll judge on there if you get more. Now you can get up to 100%, and what I've discovered is you can get up to 100% for PTSD. The only way to get there is if you have attempted suicide. So to get 100% health disability, you basically have to try and kill yourself and make it through. Then they'll consider giving you 100% disability. If you do it once, probably not. But if you do it 2 or 3 times, then yeah, you'll probably get it. So then they came out and said, we're going to have presumptive illnesses for breathing issues. If maybe you have lung disease or rhinitis or something like that, then we'll give you a presumptive 100% disability, just like they did with Agent Orange 20 plus years later. Well, unfortunately, out of the 750,000 troops that went back and forth during Desert Storm, there's over 300,000 troops that have these issues. And they say, okay, well, we only look at one issue at a time, not the whole picture. But if we do look at the whole picture and you have an unexplained collaboration of illnesses, and you can't explain why you have that, so it's an undiagnosable illness, then we'll pay you the 100%. Or if you have diagnosable illnesses, then and no known etiology, then we'll pay you. Only if you have an undiagnosable set of illnesses. How? In today's world, how do you have that? Because they throw a diagnosis on every single injury you have, every single illness, and every single one of them could have come from many different ways. So it meets the definition of diagnosable and some known etiology. In other words, we're going to put this out there because nobody will qualify for this. So over 95% of the veterans who have applied for Gulf War illness have been declined. That's why the VA has such a reputation of being a horrible service to veterans, because they don't care. You're a number. Move on. Everybody knows that the VA motto is delay, deny until they die. They did it with Vietnam vets. They're doing it with Desert Storm vets. This big influx of problems didn't start happening until 25 to 28 years after Desert Storm. It didn't rear its ugly head. Now, if we were federal employees, our benefits would take care of everything without question. But since we're just veterans, no, doesn't happen. We'll get into more of this, or I did get into more of this yesterday on the video. I just wanted to put this out there to you because there was kind of mix up and you didn't get the first half of this video series. So it's out there now. I hope you listen to this one. If you haven't listened to the one yesterday, go back and listen to it. And I'll come out with another one either later today or tomorrow that continues this saga with the problems with the VA. The one thing I want everybody to know is, and I had a bunch of people call me yesterday, can I share this? Please, for the love of God, share this. The only way we can make a difference is if somebody hears us. And we can only make that difference if somebody hears us, if we share the video and have your friends share the video and their friends share the videos, so that it might catch somebody's attention and might be able to help make a difference. Even if it's just Mr. Lawrence, we hear you. We'll look at it. And they actually follow through. Haven't had that happen with the VA yet. So maybe we can find that one person who can do that, one person who can make a difference. Okay. Thank you guys for listening. Once again, my phone number is 770-480-5143. My email address is M as in Mary, L as in Lima, A as in Apple, A as in Apple, A as in Apple, F as in Frank, F as in Frank @gmail.com. So Mary Lima, Apple, 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 Frank, Frank @gmail.com. My life as an Armenian fish farmer @gmail.com. Okay. Thanks for watching. Spread this video if you're a veteran that I can possibly help or give you a little bit of insight onto which ways to try and navigate the VA. As you can tell, I don't know a whole lot of them, but I can at least help you get into the system. Okay? Thanks for watching. Like I said, go back and watch the one from yesterday and get caught up. All right? I appreciate you guys. Have a great day.